Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ayanfe and just finished second year at the University of Cambridge studying medicine, and I'm going to give you the ultimate guide to succeeding in your UCAT this summer.
Are you ready?
So I did the UCAT in 2017, which is now called the UCAT, and I managed to get % of people who did the test. So what is the UCAT? So the UCAT is an admissions test that you need to do if you're thinking of studying medicine or dentistry at university. And the UCAT is used differently by different universities. Some universities don't even look at the UCAT and need a different admissions test, while some universities use it to decide who goes to interviews. Some universities use it with your GCSE results and some prioritize it over your GCSE results. So it is quite an important test. So this year, because of what's going on in the world, you can either do it at home or in a test centre. But if you do it at home, you need to make sure there's nothing around you and you'll be monitored at all times. The test will run between the 3rd of August and the 1st of October. So the UCAT is a 2-hour computer-based exam, and if you do decide to do it in a test centre, you get your results straight away. The UCAT is made up of 5 different sections. There's verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, decision making, abstract reasoning, and situational judgment. So each of these sections, apart from situational judgment, is scored from 300 to 900. 300 being the worst and 900 being the best. And you get an individual score for each section. And at the end, you get a total score. That can be divided by 4 to get your average score. Most universities look at your average scores. An average score of 620 to 630 is considered good and is more or less the average for medics. If you get less than 610, that's below average, and if you get more than 700, that's excellent, and if you get 800, that's amazing. In addition to those sections, there's also the situational judgment test, which isn't scored but is put in bands. So you get band 1 to 4. Band 2 is the average and band 1 is good. And most people who do it are expected to get band 2 or band 1. Some universities don't interview people who get band 4 and maybe band 3. So that's a very important section as well. So going through the sections, verbal reasoning assesses your logical thinking skills and your ability to sift through loads of information and come to different conclusions. It tests your comprehension when you're confronted with loads of different information in writing. Next is decision making, and this also assesses your ability in logical thinking and your ability to come up with a conclusion and to weigh up different arguments. Next is quantitative reasoning, and this is more maths based, and it assesses your ability to evaluate information in numerical form. Okay, so next is abstract reasoning. So this is the most different from what you may have encountered before. It tests your ability to find patterns and to make rules that can fit some shapes. Then situational judgment tests your ethical skills. So honesty, teamwork, integrity, all of these things that you need as a doctor or a dentist are tested in this section. You're probably all wondering what I got for my UCAT, and I have my official paper right here. And overall, I got an average of 712.5, which is above the average. And I also got a band 2 in my situational judgment test, and I'll get onto that later. But in all the different sections, I got 580 in my verbal reasoning. If you get less than 610, that's below average. Moving on. For decision making, I got 700. For quantitative reasoning, I got 740. For abstract reasoning, which was the biggest surprise to me at that time, I got 830. So those are all my scores, and I'll just go through how I revised for it and how I found each of the different sections while I was revising and on the day of the test. In preparation for the UCAT, I used 2 books. I used the Get Into Medicine book, which I'll put right here, and I also used the Kaplan Preparing for UCAT book, which I'll put right here as well. For the first book I mentioned, the questions were quite hard compared to the actual test, which, depending on how you look at it, can be to advantage and disadvantaged. When I had gone through a select number of questions and I found it quite difficult, I stopped using that book and I focused more on the Kaplan book and online resources as well. And those books I borrowed of all the years that had done the UCAT previously, so I didn't have to spend any money on it. In addition to those books, because it is a computer-based exam, the rest of my resources were used on the computer. So I used the Medic Portal website, which has loads of free questions and some mock exams as well. And then I also used the official UCAT website, which had loads of mock exams, and those ones really give you the taste of what it will actually be like on the day. And they have timed exams as well that I managed to do right before my exam, so I could feel of how stressed I get under pressure and things. So my overall score was quite good, but I got 580 in the verbal reasoning, and verbal reasoning was the worst section for me in preparation and obviously in the real thing. So there are things I've learned in hindsight that I would have done differently if I could go back to do it again, but I'll save that for another video. So I'm going to give you my top 5 tips for doing really well in the UCAT, and this is from some of the mistakes I did and some of the things I feel like I did well in preparation as well. So number 1 is pick your test date very carefully. So it is encouraged for you to have 4 to 6 weeks of preparation. Some people do less, some people do more, but it's important to know how you learn, whether you learn under pressure or you do slow and steady. And the UCAT is something that demands practice. You can't just go in there and do the test. You need to practice and need to be familiar with how to do the exam. So pick your test date knowing that you will have enough time before to prepare. And the test dates are from the 3rd of August to the 1st of October. But if you pick the test date and you're coming close to the time, like a few weeks closer, and you don't feel prepared, I changed my test dates by 3 days, I think. So I moved it back a few days because I was a bit stressed. So I moved it back for a few days. I didn't feel ready. And those 3 days that I added really helped me. And I think that's why I did so well in my test. Tip number 2 is to work on your weaknesses. Work on your weaknesses. That is something I don't feel I did. And you can obviously tell by verbal reasoning. Verbal reasoning, I hated revising it, and I just hated it. I didn't like reading at the times, and as you can probably tell by my result compared to the rest of it, it showed. It did. So I would say work on your weakest point. I love math, so I enjoy doing quantitative reasoning. Abstract reasoning was also one of my weaknesses, and as you can tell, it was actually my highest, and I worked on it really hard. But I neglected verbal reasoning, which was also a weakness. So I would really suggest to work on your weakness rather than focusing on your strength. Now, it can go 2 ways because ultimately it's your overall score that matters. So some people work on their strong points to make them stronger instead of their weaknesses, because it's everything that counts in the end. I would really suggest to work on your weaknesses as well, so that it's not a large disparity between your best subject and your worst subject. Number 3, get used to the computer layout. It's a computer test, so you need to do some of the preparation on the computer as well, and that can be through mock exams on things like Medify and the UCAT official website. The UCAT official website is very useful for you to get used to the interface, especially with the online calculator. My 4th tip will be, during the exam, if you're stuck, guess and move on. Guess because you don't want to leave any answer blank, but you can flag it. Guess, flag it, and move on. It's important to know that each question only gives you 1 mark, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how many steps it may take to come up with an answer. So a question that you do in 10 seconds in your head gives you the same amount of marks as a question that may take 5 minutes. And it's said that they actually give you the most difficult questions first to trick you up a bit. And you can always come back to the questions you were stuck on at the end. So it's easier to just go through the questions, flag all the ones you find particularly difficult, and move on, so you can do the easier questions first. So my 5th tip would be practice the questions timed. Practice them timed. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So I did not do this, and I was stressed in the exam. I was stressed in every mock exam I did as well, and I just didn't learn from my mistakes. So I would tell you, practice timed. not too early so you don't stress yourself out. But then when there's considerable amount of time, like 2 weeks, 1.5 weeks before the exam, start practicing time so you're used to the adrenaline and used to having to do things quickly, like mental maths. And that is one thing I wish I did when I was practicing. Especially for abstract reasoning, you have so little time compared to how many questions you have to do, and your brain has working on overdrive, so your brain has to be used to that amount of stress and pressure. So if you practice timed, it will help you as well. And I'll just add in a bonus tip. Why not? Make full use of the practice mocks that are on the different platforms. It really helps you to get into the groove of how the test will really go. Plus, in the exam, you have one section, 1 minute break where you get the instructions, and then you have to move on to the other section. So your brain has to be used from switching from comprehension and the verbal reasoning to like quantitative reasoning, and when you have to be dealing with maths. So doing that really helps you to get used to the switch. So those are all my tips, and I have 2 more videos coming out. I have a video of the top free and affordable resources available for you guys to use in your preparation, and I also have a video on the mistakes I made in preparation and on test day for the UCAT, so you guys can hopefully learn from what I did wrong. Also, I've made a playlist of really helpful UCAT YouTube videos as well from different YouTubers that you can use in your preparation. So I hope that was really helpful. Subscribe for more UCAT tips, more uni vlogs, lifestyle videos, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!